To the first Sunday on the beach?
I'm really looking forward to the first Sunday on the beach. Forecast was rain, but we've dodged another bullet. So it's beautiful. And we've got a good crew over there setting up, making life easy.
Terry Moran.
Terry Moran's headliner today.
Shores of Lake Michigan.
I love Shores of Lake. It's no better song to open up the season than Terry Moran, Shores of Lake Michigan.
The sun, the shore. What more could you ask for? The sand, the rocks. It's all here, man. It's all here.
Friends with joyful hearts, back in the sacred sand, let us worship God. Psalm 100 reads like this: Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness, and come before God with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is He who made us, and we are His. We are His people, the sheep of His pasture. So enter His gates with thanksgiving, and His courts with praise. Give thanks to God and bless His name, for the Lord is good. His love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations.
And this prayer, let us pray. O great Spirit, on this opening day at the beach, let us bask in your glory. That is creation, the 1,000 faces of God, animating creation, the flight of birds, the breath of wind, drops of rain, and countless other things, including all the faces here today. Amen.
I was raised with sand in my shoes, wind on my face. The sunrise and moon tides, this is my place. The shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan. I held my father's hand as we ran through the waves. The bluffs run high like a mountainside, calling out to me. The shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan. I've watched my children play on beaches I once roamed. traveled far and now return. This is my home. Driftwood fires on windy nights, arms around me to hold me tight. I could stay there the rest of my life. Shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan, the shores of Lake Michigan. I was raised with sand in my shoes.
Take a moment and get acquainted to those you're seated near. For those that are visitors, new this morning to the beach, it couldn't be more beautiful. And there is a guest book over at the table. If you're new, you know that usually we don't have 4 guys over at that table, but we've got set-uppers in training, and there's even there's even others who are waiting who aren't here today. So we're getting this organized. Treats are a thing that happen after the service. I think they're still coming. But it's between the services, it's a great time to mix with people from this service and the next service. A big thank you to Terry Moran this morning. I made a suggestion as he was coming, a song suggestion as he was coming in. I said, "Shores of Lake Michigan. I've got a lyric you could add on the rocky side," but he didn't slip it in. So next time. Okay. And one final announcement: we have what I think is going to be a really exciting project, Lake Forest Community Garden. In the garden, it's a fenced garden. The fencing's already there. In the garden behind Glen Rowan House. Yesterday was the first work day. We're going to have work days every Saturday, probably 7:30 to 9:30. Yesterday was 8 to 10. And my family and myself were the only ones there, but we did a lot of work. And it just made me think that how much we could do if there was even a handful more. So you might think about getting involved with that. If you'd like to, let me know. We're going to have a couple events in the garden, specifically geared towards younger families and children. My kids were looking at worms and frogs and millipedes and centipede, all sorts of things. So it's a great place for families to come out and be involved. That is all I have.
Well, welcome back. As is typically the case, they kind of break the sermon down into 2 smaller parts, and I'm doing that this morning. And the kind of theme that I have in my head for this summer is about gratitude. I think we live in a culture that all too easily leans towards the negative, whether that's about economics or politics or weather, etc., etc. And I'm a firm believer in the power of gratitude and the importance of gratitude for healthy lives as well as faith. And so this morning I begin with a few words from Deborah McCreef Akbar, who writes, "I really wanted to cry when the author of the book, The Healing Power of Gratitude, requested that the reader, which was me 6 years ago, write down the thing that they disliked most about their lives, and then find 5 reasons to be grateful for that item, circumstance, or situation. I was speechless because the circumstance I disliked most was being disabled, the result of a car accident in 1990. I was living, but deep down I resented the fact that I couldn't walk and focused on everything that I could no longer do, even though I had a loving family and a home. I thought, I've got nothing to be grateful about, absolutely nothing. After putting the book down on 2 different occasions, 3 months later I asked my husband, how can I be grateful when I'm so physically challenged? He pointed out that I never had to wash the dishes. Anywhere I go, I have my own chair, and I'm usually first on airplane flights. Well, as crazy as it sounds, he was right. But then, before I could say but, he reminded me that these were just exercises, and their point was to heal and to learn. Well, to my surprise, I read the book through 2 more times, and then I started a YouTube channel making videos about the things in my life I was grateful for, and then I followed up with a blog and Facebook and Twitter postings of the things for which I'm grateful. Life is no bed of roses, but I've learned how to recognize the beauty in my life. The biggest lessons I learned to help me stay in gratitude, to stop comparing my life experiences to the life experiences of other people. And second, to never ask negative loop questions such as, why did she do that to me? A better question is, how can I handle this situation for my greatest good? Or what lesson can I learn in all of this? I have to admit I have down moments, but I bounce out of them quicker when I remember to choose something to be grateful about in that situation. In looking back, I realized that every area I thought was negative had at least one gem of gratitude. Like growing up as a foster child, which I did, I moved around a lot. But you know, I was never homeless, and I'm grateful for that fact. I never heard the words, I love you, growing up. But the reason I can be grateful today is because it forced me to be a better parent. And I always support, and I always say, I love you to my boys. She closes with this. Please understand gratitude will help change you and your vibration and your thoughts. But only you and you alone. Oftentimes I used to say, I hate the way this tastes. I hate the weather today. I hate that I'm overweight. But I no longer throw hate at life and expect it to somehow make things better. I find some reason to be grateful, and that helps me keep rolling down the yellow brick road. More on gratitude in just a moment.
Say if you go there, you might not come back. Cause it's a far piece to travel and it's not on a map. Spirits abide there and the old ways live on, where stories are told with the totem and song. down the lost coast. Sequoias and redwoods bridge heaven and earth. Standing like sentries on 1,000-year search. Great whites and killer whales hunt in the deep. Condors and eagles wheel and scream down the lost coast. Stranded at the end of the trail. Well, I'm so tired of trying and so scared to fail. I feel I've been summoned to these mystic shores to witness a peace and a power well, I've never known before. The wind and sea rising, the waves crashing down. Ancient voices calling, the drum beats to song. The mist whirls and flutters like a ghost dancer's hands. Follow the footpath down to the sand. Down the lost coast. I bathe in the ocean and let the healing begin. My spirit is rising like a hawk on the wind. I sit by the campfire and breathe in the night till a vision moves me through darkness to stand in the light. They say if you go there, well, you might not come back.
Terry, I have to say that there's something about you, maybe it's your almost omnipresent smile that makes me want to poke fun at you. But the reality is you are such a gift to this church and to this community, and your music is, and who you are is greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thanks, son.
Wonderful words from Paul's letter to the Colossians, chapter 3, verses 12 through 17. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another, and if you have a complaint against another, forgive each other. As the Lord has forgiven you, so also must you forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, for we were all indeed called to be one body. And be thankful. Let the words of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word or in deed, do everything in the name of the Lord, giving thanks to God through him. Amen. So some of you, most of you probably know the name Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was an NBA All-Star. He's now a celebrity and an announcer, and possibly the owner of the world's worst golf swing. And many years ago, Charles was questioned by reporters about a few statements that he made in an autobiography that had just been published. And when pressed by reporters about what he had said, Charles claimed, "I was misquoted." There was an awkward pause, and then one of the reporters spoke up and said, "Charles, it was an autobiography. You can't be misquoted in an autobiography." So a question for you along autobiographical lines. If you were to sit down at your computer or with pen and paper and write your autobiography, tell your life story to this point in time, what would be its title? What would be the title of your life story? What words would you choose to summarize your life? Now, to inspire you, there's no shortage of clever autobiographical titles on the shelves of libraries. Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. Comic Steve Martin, Born Standing Up. Jay Leno, Leading with My Chin. Tennis star Andre Agassi, Simply Hoping. Maya Angelou, some of you I know have read this. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. Finally, 60s musician Davy Jones, some of you will remember him. His autobiography was titled, They Made a Monkey Out of Me. What would be the title of your life story? An autobiography, I know, with a title that is simple but spot on, belongs to a woman that Margaret mentioned during Joys and Concerns, and that's Margaret Hart. Margaret died earlier this year. She joined us for worship with some frequency when she could. She was a dear friend. She actually signed my seminary diploma 37 years ago when I graduated from McCormick Seminary. She was the chair of the Board of Trustees. And Margaret's autobiography was written at age 90. And the title, summarizing that book and her life, on the front cover, it simply reads her name, and underneath, a life of fun and adventure. How great would it be to live 9 filled to the brim decades, and then look back and say, you know what? It was a life of fun and adventure. Now, Margaret was, as her son Chip, metaphorically speaking, recently said, and I quote, was a privileged acorn who became a mighty oak, end quote. And Margaret was a woman who knew how to have fun. As a little girl, she caught a mouse in her closet. She then put a dress on it and placed it in the pocket of her family nurse. In grade school, she had a garden snake in her hand, and she put down the back of her aunt's dress. Or envision Margaret as a little girl riding on the train. There was a man seated in front with his giant fedora asleep on his head, and Margaret took peanuts and quietly placed them around the rim of the fedora. Of course, when he woke up, they all tumbled into his lap amidst great laughter. Margaret was in a socially connected family. She was expected to be a debutante. I think she wanted no part of that. Instead, what she did is she held a barn dance at their family farm. That sounded like much more fun. And then you sometimes see spouses meeting their spouse. In the old days, it was almost always wives meeting their husbands at the train. Well, one time, just to mix things up, Margaret showed up to meet her commuter husband, Gus, in a paper dress back in the 60s with a long, flowing blonde wig, just to have a little fun. But she also loved adventure, which is why the title was so perfect. She grew up like some of you and some of your children, exploring the ravines in Lake Forest and Lake Bluff. The kind of adventure she loved, though, was when they go out to their family ranch in Wyoming. It was a 2-night trip on a train. Then they'd get to Yellowstone. They'd load the family into the back of a truck and bounce their way to Cook City. Then they would be met by horses and a team of horses pulling a wagon that would take them the rest of the way to their ranch. Then after 80, and graduating from the Tony Miss Bell's school back east, at 18, after Labor Day, she was on horseback with one other person, riding in the mountains of Wyoming. This young woman, at age 18, bagged a 6-point elk to feed some of the ranch help through the winter, and then within 48 hours, also bagged a bear. Margaret Hart was all about adventure. You don't go helicopter hiking with your family in the Bugaboos to celebrate your 55th anniversary without a sense of adventure. Or at age 80, you don't accompany 18 family members to Africa. Her life was all about fun and adventure. It was a perfect title for her autobiography. But there's something that the title didn't capture, and I think it is absolutely central to how she could live that kind of life. And what made her go from being a privileged acorn to a mighty oak that also spent so much of her life devoted to helping and caring for other people. And that was that she had a faith that is like the faith we often talk about and that I know belongs to many of you. It's rooted in many ways in traditional Christianity, but it doesn't hesitate to ask challenging questions. And it strives to be authentic and real. Her faith was intellectually curious, and it also honored and respected other traditions and the people from other traditions. For Margaret's faith, though, there was a cornerstone, and it was gratitude. Sometimes I think we get so caught up in thinking that faith is about being able to convince ourselves that some of these hard-to-believe facts or stories that come to us in the Bible are true. But that's what faith is about. And we do ourselves an incredible disservice because we get hung up on that. I wonder if we wouldn't do well to simply focus not so much upon what is so difficult to understand or to claim, but simply focus, and here's a challenge for the week ahead in your faith. Try to live your life with a grateful heart and a sense of gratitude. Like handicapped Deborah McCreef Akbar, no matter your circumstances, what is it in your life for which you can be grateful or filled with gratitude? And that told Margaret's story. In the final days of her life, the final months of her life, I visited her with some frequency. And probably 2 weeks before she died, she was seated alone in the den of her house. It was a rare time she was able to get out of bed. She was propped up in a chair. There was a fire going like that with the crackling of fresh birch and oak. And on the TV 97-year-old Margaret was watching a videotape documentary about Yellowstone. She could barely talk. But what were the words, out of all the words that she could say, for all the options she had to talk about, what did she say to me? Been so fortunate. Been so lucky. And I submit that gratitude, even in those times when we're in our lives when we have to search for it and look really hard for it, just like Akbar, I believe that's foundational to any sort of healthy life or any kind of healthy faith. In Margaret's case, it was the foundation of what turned out to be a life of fun and adventure. And if having a sense of gratitude isn't part of your faith, then just think about it in terms of being a healthy human being. Researchers Emmons and McCullough have demonstrated that people who consciously focus on gratitude experience greater emotional well-being and physical health than those who do not. The list is long for the benefits of gratitude. People feel better about themselves as a whole, have greater sense of joy and happiness and optimism for the future. People who demonstrate gratitude are sick less often. They tend to exercise more regularly, have more energy, enthusiasm, determination, and focus. They sleep better, feel stronger during trying times, and enjoy closer family times. So that's the challenge for this week. To live with a sense of gratitude, even if you have to search for it. So let's close with this. This morning, I'm kind of chilly in my shorts. I went home and changed and it was sunny. So it's cold and it's gray. Not exactly a perfect start at the beach. Amidst that, what are some of the things we can be grateful for? The fire? What else?
Not raining.
Not raining, exactly. What else? Wonderful words. The young lady cleaning up the trash. How about that? Anything else? The beauty of the lake. Terry's music. Delicious coffee from Egg Harbor. Thank you. Ken Hall filling in for Elliot, who's home sick today. No matter our life situation, there's always room for gratitude. Amen. Now, what also happens every year at the beach is on this first Sunday we forget something. And on this first Sunday we forgot the hats, which is why I got this bucket. And so what we're going to do is start in the front and we'll pass it this row and then all the way across in the second row, all the way across in the back row. And then when you all get it back there, hang on to it. We are grateful for the support you provide.
Rainy day, my dusty old thoughts away. Stormy sky, see the flashing light, thunder rolling in, and I feel like I could start all over again. River running high, water rushing by, all the way down to the sea. And I feel like that river could carry me. Rainy day, washing on my dusty old thoughts away.
Dennis Waitley writes, happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Instead, happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. With a sense of gratitude for abundant blessings. Go and live in peace. And the people said, Amen. Amen. That's right.
So, Tommy, how was the first service at the beach?
It was great to be back on the sacred sands, baby.